Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Dr. Amanda Shi. I'm an anesthesiologist and intensivist, and today I'm going to talk about 4 ways that you can overcome your haters. Something that I reflect back on nowadays is that I once worked with someone who was a physician and a researcher in my undergrad time, who, after working with them for a couple of years, coming in, actually bringing in my own funding for one of the years and supporting certain lab things, I was told at the end of the time that I was working with this person that I would never be a doctor. This person also very specifically said they would never provide a letter of recommendation for me. And what I would say is that I walked out of that meeting feeling totally crushed. And just so you guys know, I have wanted to be a physician since my youngest memory. This was not something that was instilled in me by my parents or anyone else. It was just something that organically felt like it was the right path, and this is what I wanted to do in my life. So being told during my journey as a pre-med that I would never be a physician or a doctor was really challenging for me. One of the things I'll say is that the first piece of advice I have, if you get some of this kind of feedback or you have haters that are like, you're never gonna achieve your goals, X, Y, or Z things, is to sit down for a second and ask yourself, is there a grain of truth to what they have to say? So there are realities to pursuing certain goals in terms of the requirements to get there. So in the setting of becoming a physician, there are certain requirements in order to get you into medical school. If the numbers don't look good, so if someone's GPA or their test scores like the MCAT are way below average, then it is going to be so much harder or nearly impossible to get into medical school. So there could be some realities to someone's advice or to someone's statement about you pursuing a certain dream. I think that it's really important to stay practical and to stay within reality because, like I said, there are certain things that may be requirements for achieving certain goals that you have. Now, if those things are not the case, then maybe it's still something helpful to think about, well, what if I don't achieve this goal that I had initially wanted? So I talk about this in kind of other social media channels, but if I hadn't become a physician, or if I didn't get into medical school, which was totally possible that I couldn't have gotten in because I was on all these wait lists, then I actually probably would have applied for PA school, because to me, the goal was always to be some sort of medical professional that could help patients. That's what I wanted to do. That was the goal. So if that was a physician, great. That is what I ended up being, but at the end of the day, I also had kind of another vision for what would have been a dream job for me too. So I think, first of all, it's important to see if there's a nugget of truth at all in someone saying like you're not gonna achieve this goal or someone who's hating on you. Because sometimes there is something important that you need to take away from that kind of statement or that kind of advice, especially in the scenario where I was in, where I was working with someone who was in a position that I wanted to be in. So they were someone reputable, they were credible, they actually went through this process. So if they didn't feel like I had it in me to be successful or be like them, then there was something true about that, or there was something about that that made them think that way. So I think it's important to think about things that way. The second thing that I think is important to overcome this kind of soul-crushing or dream-crushing statement is to find a lot of mentors and sponsors. So I think it's really important to reach out to people. There are so many people out now that we have the internet and social media and all these things. There are so many people out in the world who want to help you, and there's people locally to you that want to help you that are either on the path to where you want to go or currently are in the place that you want to be in. So it is important, I think, to have a lot of different perspectives, a lot of different opinions, to talk to a lot of different people about where you currently are in your journey, what it is that you're striving towards, and get their opinion, get their advice on kind of what to do next and how to think about things, and really find people that you can trust that will give it to you honestly. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't make sense to kind of live in a dream world or to live where you think that anything is possible when there are, again, like I said earlier, there are practicalities and realities in life that you have to address. And it's not that easy to make a dollar, to make money, especially in this economy. So I think it's really important to think about practical ways that you can move forward. And one big way to do that is to have mentors and sponsors and people that can maybe consider opening other doors for you that you never even thought were possible, or you never thought or considered because you just didn't get exposure to it. While you might have a dream to be X, Y, or Z thing, like I had wanted to be a physician, at the end of the day, there's probably a lot of other jobs that I would have really, really enjoyed, or careers that I would have really enjoyed, and that would have also allowed me to give back and do the things that I find to be gratifying and that I find to be important as part of my work day to day. The third thing, which I've kind of alluded to in the first couple, is that sometimes it's important to think about whether you should start to pivot. So I kind of alluded to this in the beginning, is like, maybe you should do the thought exercise about, what if I'm not successful in X, Y, or Z thing? What could I also be happy doing? What other things should I pursue? What other pathways could I pursue? One example of where, I wouldn't say I was necessarily pivoting per se, but when I started my job, I had wanted to become some sort of administrator or have some sort of role as an administrative leader. And there was initially a position that I applied for that I really, really, really wanted. I will say that I was like really excited about it, but the writing was on the wall and I knew who was gonna get it. So I did the process, I went through it. I thought it was really helpful to go through it, but another opportunity arose afterwards, and it turned out that that opportunity was actually a better fit for what I wanted to do and kind of everything else that has ensued since. It was a surprise. It was a pivot that was a surprise that ended up being much better than I had ever expected it to be. And I would say that that pivot was actually the best thing in the world for me. I'm glad I didn't get the first position I applied for, because the one I'm in is so much better for what I see myself doing long term and just for my current life status as is. So this pivot, in a way, actually really was a better thing for me. So I think it's important to think about what are alternative paths that exist or could exist, and thinking through how you could potentially get there if your initial or first dream may not be possible right now. Maybe it'll be possible later, or maybe it's just not going to be in the cards. That's also something that could potentially happen. And I think it's important to at least think through that scenario. And if you need to pivot, time to pivot. And then the fourth, I think most important thing of this whole video is to really overcome the haters. You just kind of have to keep hustling. There is no replacement for hard work. There is no replacement for grinding. There's no replacement for investing, doing the time in order to make yourself better, to get the skills, to learn, to educate yourself, to get yourself out there. There is no replacement for that. So hard work shows off. Hard work is very apparent to people who are leading organizations or are your team members, and that goes a really long way. So keep showing up, working hard, and while your initial dream or thing that you were working towards may not necessarily materialize the way that you thought it would, just recognize that oftentimes success or things, achieving certain dreams or goals, may look very different from how you thought, but could actually be better than what you ever imagined. So I think it's super important to consider these four things, especially if you feel like you're hitting resistance, or there's someone that maybe trying to dissuade you from your dreams in some way, or are like trying to crush your dreams like my mentor did with me and saying I would never be a doctor. So I hope this video was helpful to you guys. If you thought it was, give me a thumbs up. If you want to hear from me again in the future, subscribe to my channel. I will see you guys next time.